Hello guys, how are we doing? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to my Hardpoint guide where I basically give you guys the key to unlock wins on Hardpoint. And basically all it is there's going to be a suggested setup for every hill so that you and your 4-stack can guarantee that you're going to get the most holds or the most hill time per hold possible. Obviously this is an ideal video if you are capable of loading in with a 4-stack, because obviously you can all work on this, you can share this with your team, and you can pick a position that you want to go, and you just you know your role loading into each map. However, if you're solo queuing or duo queuing or even trio queuing, obviously this is still going to benefit you because you're going to know, okay, my teammates are here, here, and here. This is where I need to pick up. So this is obviously still useful for anyone who is watching who can't guarantee a quad queue. But the general logic behind most of these hills are: one, the spawns are blocked, so they can't be flipped, and secondly, every single area of the map is covered so no one can leak through any gaps, or at least, even if you're not killing them, they can be seen by someone. So yeah, today's video is for sub base. Obviously I'm going to touch on spawns very slightly here, but don't have any inkling that this is a spawn guide. This is not a spawn guide. This is literally a guide on best holds per hill on sub base. If you do want to know the inner details of every single spawn in the game, obviously for ranked play, you can check that out. And I think I uploaded that a few weeks ago now when the season 1 reloaded dropped. So anyway, enough of the intro. Let's kick it off with sub base P1, which finds itself in the middle here. So first of all, you have an AR player in number 3 at the bottom here, watching their push through warehouse. Now a lot of teams like to push around this left hand side here to rotate to P2, which is where my cursor is currently. So number 3, being that designated player to watch that, is beneficial and integral to to hold in that area of the map. Secondly, you have number 1, who is the guy who is potentially blocking the spawns here. So realistically, there's a spawn back here, and as long as this guy doesn't push up past these sort of railings, he should be pretty good up here. So number 1, again with an AR, their job is to mainly watch tunnel and also help out anyone from this left hand side. They've just got an overview of the entire map pretty much, but they can't die unless they die first. So let's say, for example, they managed to get a kill, but they die almost instantly after. Because they're dead, because they're not on the map anymore, it's going to open up the spawn, say number 3 to then spawn in the back, and then number 1 ends up spawning out. So that's obviously, he needs to play their life as much as possible here, just to guarantee the spawns for their team. So he can just lay down and cover and duck. But notice that we've also got number 2 here, who's watching the entire cross across the whole map. So this guy is really pivotal in this Hardpoint success. And not a lot of people check this out here. Basically, you have to just walk out the top windows of top comms, slide along the ledge, sit in the corner, and you can pretty much see across the entire map here. And then you can also see any sort of push from below comms or top comms to the actual hill itself. Again, probably an AR player because of the long line of sights they're going to have to deal with. Finally, we have number 4, who's the guy on the hill, who's getting the hill time, and the only place they really need to watch is the ramp, because obviously everything else is sort of covered. You've got warehouse covered, you've got top snow covered, you've got tunnel covered, you've got comms covered by number 2. So yeah, everywhere's covered. Number 4 literally just needs to watch the ramp. I advise they have a submachine gun, just so that this is a fairly close range engagement, so they want to be winning that kill with the submachine gunner. With the rival 9 obviously, but other than that, they just want to lay down on the time. They do not want to get picked off here. Realistically, this blue team should not be able to exit this whole building side, so they shouldn't have a problem. The only thing that might happen is they lose the gunfight. Say number 5 comes through here, they lose the gunfight to number 5, and then what will then happen is these guys spawn out. Number 4 then spawns out, and then number 1 perhaps then hops on the hill. Number 4 fills the gap, and they just sort of switch the roles like so. So that's how you'd rotate that to the best of your ability. Let's just move him back to where he belongs. Leave it there. Now on the flip side, let's say you're on the blue team. Realistically, you want to flip spawns because P2 is where number 3 is, just down the bottom left hand here. So realistically, you do want to flip spawns, but let's say you've spawned this side, you managed to rotate to a decent amount of hill time to P1, and you just want to hold it from this side for now. This is a lovely hold. So first things first, you have number 6, I believe that is. You have the guy top snow here. He's on this godheady. From here, it's almost impossible to die unless they literally screw up. So he wants to try and play a life. They can see into top P2. They can see the push through P5. But he's just basically watching this whole left-hand side. It's his job to make sure that people can't push from this side of the map. And they should be using an AR from this line of sight. Then have a guy in number 8 who's laid down sort of just over this catwalk. So there's a catwalk just here where this line is, and just the other side of the catwalk is lying down and basically watching if anyone comes from bottom maze to the hill. They've got him covered there, because realistically they're going to be coming out of there, directing their, you know, their interests to the hill, and number 6 should be able to be in them there, number 8, sorry. Then you have number 5, who's almost doing the exact same job, but from the top rails. So he's top secret. He's watching the whole cross towards top P2 window, so you can see if anyone goes top P2, and then he can communicate that to number 6. But the main thing they're pretty much watching is if anyone decides to go, let's say there's someone top 10 and they go, right, I'm tired of this guy being on the hill, let me just jump over. Number 5 should have an angle to be able to beam them off of that, you know, sort of transition from top third. So this guy's got bottom, this guy's got top. Number 6 has the left-hand side. And then finally, number 7, who's again on the hill, is watching ramp, and he's got the right-hand side. Realistically, unless it's the very early on in the hill, you don't see many teams push around this right-hand side of the map, just because it has the potential to flip the spawns. But say, for example, number 4 decides to run around there, number 7's got them, just like so. But then obviously on P2, you do want these back spawns here, and there's going to be some new images you're seeing. There's some new shapes that you're seeing. So starting off, the main spawn you want to hold for the red team if you're defending P2, which is just this orange box here, is this back screen spawn, just here basically, back old P3 we're going to call it. The 2 people who are sort of blocking this, number 1 is the first blocker. Being top third means that they can't spawn there most of the time. Sometimes if they get 4 down, however, this game decides to just spawn them back there anyway. So that's what number 3 is doing. Number 3 sat at the very deep left, like back side of the hill, with an AR, with a sub, whatever they want to use. Realistically, the sub's probably more beneficial just because you're in the hill and it's sort of close range engagements. But it's their job just to make sure they shouldn't really be taking any gunfights here if this setup works well. The number 3 as a submachine gunner, or even as an AR, completely up to you guys, can sit and just watch for this flip. Realistically, this is going to be the guy who's just going, okay, if we get 4 down, I've got the spawn just to make sure that if anyone does flip, at least we know about it before we just get killed and someone's gone, oh, we flipped, you know? So that's what number 3 is doing here, is sat on the hill, just watching the flank. Then obviously you have the guy top third, who should be the guy blocking spawns, but you know what the game's like. Sometimes the spawns can be a little bit unpredictable, but he should be doing that role from up here. And then from here, they can spawn, he's got the cross from anyone coming through tunnel. He can watch people coming from top snow. And at the worst case scenario, he can see, I mean, the line's not here, but he can see from if anyone pushes through the warehouse. So they've got the overview of this entire map pretty much from top third. You then have player number 4 here, who again should have an AR. You're going to get a little bit of a gist of the theme here. There's a lot of ARs, but that's how you watch Line of Sights, is with ARs, and these maps are very lent towards the AR role. So number 4 is doing almost the exact same thing number 1 is doing. He's watching tunnel, they're watching top snow, can even help watching warehouse. But basically these 2 guys need to work together to make sure no one can cross out of this mid half of the hill, this mid half of the map. Realistically, they do have player number 2 here, who again, using an AR, should be sat either top warehouse or bottom warehouse, and just watching their main entrance into the warehouse. So in this setup, with these 4 players where they are, the blue team will spawn back here. So realistically, their only routes they're going to take are either through the tunnel or through the warehouse. So number 2's playing an integral role here to make sure that no one can get through the warehouse. If they end up dying, number 4 can then pick that up and watch that as well. And then number 1 can put a little bit more emphasis on watching tunnel. So you've really got to play it off here. And then obviously, if you're blue side, you're pretty much screwed, which is why you want to sort of hold it from this side. Now moving into P3, we see a little bit of a flip on the map here. P3 finds itself just outside the tunnel, just here in this orange area. Now, blue team, if they'd managed to hold, let's say they couldn't fend off the P2 push and they managed to hold this side of the hill and they've rotated early, if they're going, you know what, screw 20 seconds scrap time, let's just set up. So the ideal setup you can have here, we start at the bottom with number 5 with an AR yet again. To be fair, you could use 4 ARs on this one. Number 5 is watching the push through P5 or platform, as well as watching pretty much the cross through mid, or they can watch P2 window. Literally, they've got their top warehouse and they're watching pretty much this whole left-hand side and middle of the map. Then I have number 8 who's doing a very similar role, just from a little different position. They're on this godheady, top snow, and again, they're watching P2 window and then they're pushed through mid. And realistically, if number 6 fell, they could pick up warehouse, or they could just even form an angle to watch warehouse as well. So realistically, these guys have got each other's backs, and they're not letting anyone through mid. Then have right at the top here, number 6, who is doing the very keen job of blocking this back spawn here by being hit. There's a little head glitch you can get on if you hop on the rails behind this container. You can sit on this disgusting head glitch they're blocking the spawn as well as blocking the right. So if number 1 or if number 2 decides to, you know, take a route all the way round like so, number 6, sorry, is going to be there ready for that. So that's why he's there, as well as blocking spawns, obviously. Then finally, you have number 7, who's the person on the hill, and they don't really need to watch anything. If I'm honest, this setup is absolutely perfect. Number 5 and number 8 should be doing all of the work. They're sat on 2 disgusting head glitches. With this setup, obviously the back spawn's blocked. The red team are going to spawn maze, so they're going to be forced to either run out of mid or take a route through P2. And as I say, they can maybe take a route all the way around here. But number 6 and number 5, number 8 and number 5 should really have this setup on lock. Realistically though, if they die, they'll spawn back here. They can then bump this player, you know, who can maybe go top snow and replace him, and then this player gets on hill, and they pretty much switch the situation around. So that's pretty much how it should work. But yeah, this should be discussing these 2 guys, top snow and top warehouse, should be taking on the majority of the kills on this hill. And then number 6, this guy who's sat on hill, sorry, no matter whatever number it is, with an AR, is watching. Maybe if, let's say, they get through to tunnel, they've then got to deal with this guy as well. So it's a little bit rough. And then realistically, let's say they kill this guy, they've then got to face this guy who can turn and shoot the people on the hill as well. So it's a really nice setup here. But the important thing is to have someone back here, just making sure they can't block. And obviously you want to push up far enough to not allow them to hop up to snow or get into top warehouse, because this is, you really want to trap them that left-hand side of the map. Moving on to P4, which is just this little area, bottom of 3rd, just in front of where the old P3 was, just near this old long line of sight. So again, we're on the red side here. The main spawn, we're going to find ourselves in is this back one here. Now, number 1 should be blocking this as long as this team don't push up too much, and in this position they shouldn't be. So the main spawn you want to hold is this back one just here. Number 1 is doing the block for that, as well as watching this long line of sight with an AR. There's a nice little heady and like a pillar here. I think there's cranes or something, or machines, I'm not really sure what it is. But you sit behind those and you can watch this long line of sight, and you can really got to try and stay alive there. So what you're trying to do, maybe get a couple bullets here, a couple bullets there, maybe some live marks, being that communicator to the team if anyone is pushing down the left. You then have number 4, who's sat on the hill itself, and being that sort of backup secondary player who's looking down this long line of sight and picking off anyone who's hopefully weak from player number 1. But again, the player 1 needs to try and play the life as much as possible, because if this guy dies, obviously the spawn is left open. You then have number 2, who's sat top 3rd. Because realistically, with this setup, the blue team are going to spawn sort of back here, this general vicinity. I'll make it a little bit bigger, just in case they spawn here, maybe. But realistically, they're going to spawn back here, so they're going to be either flooding through comms, or they're flooding through this long alley just here. So number 2 is basically watching comms, watching to make sure if anyone decides to run up the ramp and try and get to top 3rd, number 2 has got that whole middle sort of angle. And then finally, you have number 3, who's in a bit of a weird position, but this is a real nice hold. It's almost backing up number 2. So if number 2 gets weak, they're trying to play the life. The blue team might decide, okay, quick, let's try and get top 3rd. Number 3 is that insurance player to make sure that anyone who's running out of comms, or running down ramp, or running up ramp, or trying to get into secret, number 3 is that player who's just watching this long line of sight. And then obviously for the next hill, number 3 is integral in getting into this warehouse early and making sure that this blue team, or whoever they're defending the hill from, is spawning further out. So yeah, as I say, in this setup, the blue team will spawn back here, so their main pushes are going to be bottom comms, maybe even top comms. They might go top comms to play some picks, but generally it's going to be this general area, so which is why all the arrows are sort of pointed into this direction. They might take a long route, but it's not going to be worth their time 90% of the time. And finally, moving on to P5, which is where it always has been. It's by this tank, and we're going to be with the red team here again. So you notice that number 3, who was top snow, has relocated themselves to top warehouse. Now, as long as this number 3 player is here, the enemy team will always spawn pretty much where this circle is. Just pretty much maintain the same spawn. As soon as they pull back out of that warehouse, spawn becomes here, and then they're dealing with people who are rushing the warehouse. So realistically, you want to try and maintain this warehouse pressure to enable them to spawn really quite far away from their hill. So number 3 is watching warehouse with an AR. He's maybe top warehouse or bottom warehouse. Doesn't really matter. Top's probably preferable because you've got height advantage on them. But he's up there basically watching, making sure if anyone can run through the warehouse. Then have number 2, who's on the hill, obviously bottom floor of the map, and they are just the guy who should sort of stay alive. They can play as an AR, play as a sub, absolutely whatever, but their job from here is to stay alive. Obviously, you're on the hill. They are watching this whole cross out. So if anyone comes out of comms or anyone comes out of tunnel, they can live ping them. They can maybe get a couple of bullets in them as they run through. But realistically, number 2 here is the person who's getting time and the info checker, maybe, you know, putting a couple of bullets in the odd person. Then you have number 1, who's the guy blocking the spawn, as well as number 4, to be fair. These guys are both blocking spawns, but the spawn is mainly blocked back here by number 1 being alive. So he's that P2 window. They can watch tunnel, they can watch bottom comms, because realistically, if they're spawning here, they're going to be, you know, they're going to want to run through comms. They can either come back and watch tunnel, but realistically, the majority of the time they're going to run through comms, which is why a lot of the attention is on this sort of side of the map. So number 1's watching that, as well as tunnel. If they need to help out, they can watch warehouse as well, but it shouldn't really happen with this setup. And finally, you have number 4, who again, using an AR. There's a lot of AR usage on this map, and I think that's just a very common theme across all of these hardpoint maps. Especially if you're trying to get a really good long line of sight hold and guarantee 60 seconds on the hill. So yeah, number 4's top third, an absolute god position where they can see into tunnel, they can see bottom comms, they can really push, they can help out warehouse, but their main focus should be tunnel and bottom comms or top comms, whatever. And then in this position, obviously, as I mentioned previously, the blue team are going to spawn back here. So a lot of the attention is going to be through bottom comms. It's going to maybe be through tunnel if they decide to take a little bit of a route. If they really want to take a route, they can even run through warehouse. But again, common theme is 90% of these angles are covered. So warehouse is covered, tunnel's covered, top comms, bottom comms are covered. The only thing that isn't covered is if, say, for example, this guy decides to make a run all the way around, get top third, and then being like that. But that's a little bit of a long route that I probably don't expect to see too frequently. That'd be the play they would make. But number 4, you know, should have that covered. And realistically, he's not the one blocking spawns. Let's say that did happen, and number 4 died. Number 1 can then go back up, get to this window maybe, and then support a little bit back here, just guarantee the spawns. So yeah, that's going to be the setup. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, obviously leave it down below. And if there's anything I might have missed, or there's a setup that you guys prefer, feel free to drop it down in the comments for the rest of you guys, for the rest of the community to see and share. So that's going to do it for me. Hope you enjoyed. Ciao for now.